Hi, I'm Rich Torrey. Welcome to another Level Up Cartooning. All you ever need to follow along to me is a pencil and paper. It doesn't get any easier than that, right? Now, before we get started, make sure you hit the thumbs up and the subscribe button, as it helps this channel to grow, and hit the bell so you never miss a lesson. I'm going to tell you a story that I've told before, so bear with me. Snoopy has always held a special place in my heart. Here's why. Peanuts creator Charles Sparky Schulz lived out in California. When I was 8, I did too. At the time, my dad worked for a now defunct NHL team called the Oakland Seals, and one of their season ticket holders was Charles Schulz. Knowing I like to draw, my dad must have told me about Schulz being at all the Seals games. One day I got it in my head that I was going to bring a drawing I had done in art class of a horse to one of the games to show Mr. Schulz, which I did. So in the middle of the game, 8-year-old me walked up to Charles Schulz's seats and showed him my horse drawing. All I remember of that moment was asking if he would sign the back of my drawing and then racing back to my seat. It was then that I discovered that he had not only signed the back of my horse drawing, but he had also drawn Snoopy. Of course, I was blown away. And really, from that moment on, I wanted to be a cartoonist just like Sparky Schulz. 20 years later, after landing my first syndicated comic strip, I wrote him and told him that story as a way of thanking him for inspiring me. And incredibly, he wrote me back, and we ended up corresponding until his passing in 2000. I tell you that story because this week, we're going to celebrate the 75th anniversary of my hero, the late, great Charles Schulz's masterpiece creation, Peanuts. Peanuts first appeared in newspapers back in October of 1950, and it went on to become the most successful comic strip of all time, achieving a remarkable range of milestones, cementing its place in both pop culture and history. Along with appearing in thousands of newspapers worldwide, the Peanuts gang have starred in wildly successful TV specials, stage musicals, and movies, a testament to Schulz's timeless blend of humor, heart, and human insight. Happy birthday, Charlie Brown. Happy birthday, Snoopy. Now let's draw. We're going to draw our Peanuts scene with Charlie Brown, Snoopy and Woodstock step by step, giving you the secret formula to be able to draw it again and again. If you've watched any of my other videos, you know I normally use the character's head to figure out how big the entire character is. In this running pose, Charlie Brown and Snoopy are both about 2 heads tall. In other words, however tall we draw their heads, their entire bodies will be 2 of those tall. The difference is in the size of their heads. When I measured the characters in my drawing, Charlie Brown's head was 1.5 inches tall, whereas Snoopy's head was 1 inch tall, which means even though they're both 2 heads tall, their overall height is going to be different. In the end, Snoopy winds up being about 1/3 shorter than Charlie Brown in this drawing. And little Woodstock, well, if he was standing or running, he, like the other 2, would be 2 heads tall. But he's flying. That said, his entire body is, in fact, 2 heads wide, if that helps. Okay, so what do you say we draw the roadmap for our Peanuts anniversary scene with Charlie Brown, Snoopy, and Woodstock? So there's our roadmap for our little Peanuts anniversary scene. Now before we go into step 2, I want to give you the layout of our Peanuts scene using simple shapes for those of you who want a screen grab. Just something to help you when laying out your drawing. Okay, so now we're on to step 2. In this step we do what I call roughing out the features. I want to remind you that until the third and final step, you want to draw as light as possible. I use guidelines to help me to position Charlie Brown and Snoopy's features, bodies, and overall poses. But we don't want those guidelines in the final drawing. So you want to draw them light enough to be able to erase them easily. Okay? So let's rough out the features of Charlie Brown, Snoopy, and Woodstock and our scene honoring the 75th anniversary of Peanuts. Okay, so there are the roughed out features of our Peanuts anniversary scene. So now with the roadmap done and the features roughed out, it's time for that final step. In step 3, we get to have fun. We get to draw in the final details of old Chuck, Snoopy, and Woodstock. We don't have to guess where to put things because we've already done all the hard work to figure that out. In this step, it's okay to draw darker, but don't press too hard or mindlessly retrace over the lines you've already drawn. The goal is to always draw with an eye on tweaking and improving all the way until the very end. Okay, so let's draw in the details for our Peanuts 75th anniversary scene. And that's how you do it. There they are, Charlie Brown, Snoopy, and Woodstock, in our scene honoring the 75th anniversary of Peanuts. So how do you think you did? Understand, if you've never drawn any of these characters before, let alone a scene with all of them, then you can't expect to have drawn them perfectly. You notice I don't spend time coloring our Peanuts anniversary scene during this video because I want my lesson to focus solely on the drawing process. But now you have the secret formula, the process for drawing Charlie Brown, Snoopy, and Woodstock in our little scene here. And with that, you can draw it again and again. By all means, color it when you're done. I promise each time you draw it, it's going to be a little better and a little easier. I also promise the more you work with me, the better you're going to get at all of your cartoon characters. So I'd love to see your version of our Peanuts anniversary scene. If you can, take a picture and post it on either Facebook or Instagram, and don't forget to include the hashtag #LevelUpCartooning. I hope you had as much fun as I did with this one. Remember to subscribe, and thanks for joining me. Until next time, keep drawing, my friends.